Ben Simmons may not be a part of the playoffs, but he had a major impact on the Sixers season. He's a finalist for the Rookie of the Year award. Yaron Weitzman, Slam Magazine, on the cover, Ben Simmons. He wrote the article, got a chance to catch up with Ben on his rookie season, a very in-depth piece on the Australian rookie. And Yaron joins us now, right here on the Sports Bash Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Yaron, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You got it. Great piece, very in-depth here. So you talked to Ben. Was this during the season, right before the season ended? It looks like in April?
This was, I guess, I'm losing, with playoff time, combine, it all mushes together. I believe this was right before the playoffs at the end of the season.
So right before the playoffs start. And one of the things I read in there, he talked about the hardest part of the season. He just plays an 82-game season after not playing the year before. He said that staying mentally prepared all the time, how draining the season was. Could you see that late in the year that maybe he was, that this had kind of wore on him?
Yeah, you kind of saw it in the Boston series, right? Not because there's anything wrong with him, but just this was, how many games you play in college? 25, right? In the NBA, you play 82, and then another 10 playoff games, and, you're practicing every day. And, yeah, you definitely saw in the Boston series a little bit. Things like on defense, I don't think these guys aren't trying. He just looked a little step slower. Once another team brings a new tactic that can maybe take you out of your normal instinct, that can really throw you off. And I think we kind of saw that in the Celtics series.
What were some of the things that other NBA players, I know you talked to Dwayne Wade about them, that stood out about what they see in Ben Simmons?
You just talk to anyone around the league, right? And they're all just – it's funny because he's got – the no jump shot thing is fascinating, right? He's not a shooter, but yet – everyone around the league, they're just so impressed with how physical he is, how big he is, and how good he is. It's just his competitiveness, the way he can get to the lane, and the way he just makes his teammates better. And I don't mean that in some hack cliche way. I mean that literally makes them better in terms of shots they get, baskets they get, things on defense he can do. And it's the kind of thing that Dwayne Wade was saying. He told the kind of media the idea, the whole story about he knew Simmons back when Simmons was in high school when they were practicing together. I think Simmons and LeBron have some connections, and he would practice with them. And you can kind of see then that Simmons, he never really backed down. Ben's always looked at himself as part of that group, that he's going to be part of that group and as belonging among them. And it sounds like something simple, but that makes a big difference.
Yaron Weitzman is with us, has a cover story on Ben Simmons on Slam Magazine. And Yaron, I know in the interactions with Ben Simmons, when I've seen him post-game or I've seen him with the media, that you kind of have to put on your Columbo hat to decipher and sort of read between the lines of what because he doesn't say much. And then when he does say things, every so often it'll be one little key sentence. And I thought when you had the quote in there about, look, it's hard for guys to stop me driving down the lane 6'10", 240. I stick to what I'm pretty good at, that key part. Did you find that in your conversation with him, that there wasn't a lot of revealing comments, but when they were there, you had to sort of pick through and go, wait a second, that's the one, that's the code, that's the key?
I actually think you're spot on there. I think that's one of the things that's interesting about Ben is, like you said, he's not the most verbose person, as anyone listening to your show knows, if you're a Sixers fan. But it's not a game. He says what's on his mind. He says what he means, and that's it. It's pretty simple. And so every now and then you get a comment like that. There's another quote in there about, him thinking, what the thing that drives him is wanting to be great. And it's just simple, right to the point, but that's just how he thinks and how he is. And the idea, again, people can't stop me. Why would I shoot? I think I think he has to develop a jump shot or something. I think, excuse me, sorry, a lot of honking NBA executives outside the combine. I think that going forward, some of the struggles he had in the Celtics series will actually be this humbling there that will be good for him in terms of learning that he has to adapt his game a little bit. But the stuff that makes him so great is that's how he feels. And I agree with what you're saying. I think that's the core of what Ben Simmons is.
You wrote about an obscure stat that illustrates how much, how little he cares about his numbers, and basically is not a me first kind of guy. That when you look at him, you can tell that he doesn't care about his scoring. He wants to pass the ball, but these kind of numbers and these kind of stories and stats are just really epitomize who he is.
Yeah, I believe he was second, or maybe you have it in front of second, third. I forget what exactly it was. And loose balls recovered. The NBA keeps these numbers, and that kind of sounds like, I know people who don't like advanced stats, they get like, what does that mean? But when you think about it, I mean, that's a classic stat that every coach would love to have, right? The idea of loose balls recovered. And the fact, I found it surprising that Simmons was there. You don't think of big-time rookies like him as being the guys who grew up as always, quote, the man. You don't think of them being kind of the guys who are getting on the floor every play, right? And to me, it's kind of telling that he is.
Yeah, and another thing, like you mentioned, it's probably you're talking to him, you're trying to pull stuff out of him. He made the move from Australia to here. I'm assuming that there was probably a big adjustment for him to kind of do that. And then as soon as he got here, he was looked as kind of this like basketball prodigy almost.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know how big the adjustment was because he grew up in an American home. Like his dad's American. He grew up in an American home. He was always dreaming about the NBA. That was always his goal. But what I agree with you, and I think you're right, is he came over here and he became, the word I use is a celebrity, right? He became a celebrity right away. And, the world's different today. The basketball world's different today. It's like it's not just you're a basketball star. You're a quote unquote celebrity. So you're on videos. People are tweeting out videos of you. I'm not saying Ben's on TMZ, but you have the TMZ type stuff that comes out, and he got thrown into that right away. And I think he learned really early on the idea of having to keep himself buttoned up and protect himself. Remember, LSU was a crazy year for him in terms of we heard things about his grades and stuff coming out, and he didn't really want to be there. He didn't really care for the whole NCAA model and system. If it was up to him, he would have been in the NBA. So he learned pretty fast how to kind of protect himself, but it's also and how difficult it can be being a celebrity in America today.
Yeah, Yaron Weitzman with us, got a cover story on Ben Simmons in Slam magazine. You brought up LSU, Yaron, and that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, that one and done documentary, which I saw, which I found to be very interesting. What was you saw that, I assume, and what was your perception of Ben Simmons after that? And then when you actually got to sit down and have the one-on-one conversation with him, did it change?
Yeah, no, I mean, I no, it did. I mean, I love that he did the one-on-one documentary. I think I wish he would show himself more of that part of himself, right? That was very pointed what he did, right? That was on purpose. The idea, that documentary, for those who didn't see it, it was kind of followed him his year at LSU, and I would say the overall thesis behind it was how ridiculous the NCAA model is, right? When you're great, the idea that the whole idea, like the school's profiting off of him, he doesn't get to profit anything. The classes, the academic issues, and the eligibility, all that, the system's backwards. And that documentary was kind of a look at why and how it's backwards, and I kind of love that he felt like he had the voice and power to do that. I mean, that's very much in the image of model LeBron James, the idea of athletes empowerment and taking control and showing what they think are injustices. I wish he would be a little more revealing with some of the stuff that he finds important, because clearly no one made him do that. That was clearly something he and his family felt important to do, and therefore let those cameras in. I wish he would kind of do that a little more, but also he's still 21 years old and a kid, so I don't judge him too hard for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's, you want not to suggest he didn't give full effort at LSU, but I mean, he seemed disinterested to be there, right?
Which, I mean, I think he was disinterested in, and I mean, we look back, that team was pretty, that team was garbage. No offense to those other guys. But, I mean, the coach, Johnny Jones, is no longer there. I think there's the only other player, I think Antonio Blakeney is the only other player to be professional. He's a G League guy. I don't think anyone else is even in the G League, let alone the NBA from that team. So besides that, he went there because his godfather was the assistant coach, and he wanted to be comfortable there. But yeah, he was not. He's not a kid who grew up in America dreaming of playing in Final Four. The idea was to make the NBA.
Right, and essentially, let me get through this season, because he was criticized a lot that he couldn't even get his college team to. This guy didn't even make it to the tournament. Like when you were looking for something to kind of during that draft, it was, well, this guy didn't get his team to the tournament. How can he be the number one overall pick? And essentially, he didn't care to get his team to the tournament. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I said he wanted to win, and he tried to. I truly believe he did all he could, but it's in college. I mean, you see it. Like we say every year in college, it's really, really hard to elevate a team if it's not good. One guy's good, but it doesn't. It just doesn't work. Teams can double team you, triple team you, make other guys hit shots in a way that's not the same in the NBA. So yeah, you'd like to see guys go to the playoffs, go to the tournament. He might not be the best example, but Markelle Fultz the next year, team to make the playoffs, didn't matter. I think that's going to be a trend we start seeing more and more, especially as players kind of feel more comfortable maybe going to different schools. The idea that they're not going to college for the same reason that players went to college 10 years ago. They're just going someplace they're comfortable for 6 months to kind of hold their time until they make the NBA.
Yaron Weitzman's with us. SlamOnline.com is where you can read this full article on Ben Simmons. Now, you talked to him before the playoffs, and now obviously the Boston season series, he got humbled a little bit. Does he seem like a kind of guy that can be humbled? Like, if you talk to him now, it would be interesting to say, like, what did that Boston series, did it open your eyes a little bit? Because you had mentioned, he said, it's hard for me to stop driving down the lane. I stick to what I'm good at. But you wonder if that series has maybe changed him a little bit.
So if a media member asks him that, he's going to say no. He said this, and he's going to keep saying this. He's going to say, no, that was just me. I have to fix stuff myself, adjust stuff myself. Behind the scenes, I think he kind of knows. I mean, there are little adjustments. Even late in the season, he made a little adjustment to his foul shot. He kind of talked to a shooting coach, and the idea of acknowledging that there were issues there and bringing the elbow lower and shooting out instead of up. And you saw a difference in the playoffs, right? So if someone publicly asked him, do the Celtics get you? The Ben Simmons image is that, no, I'm my own guy, no one gets on me. I think he knows, but I don't want to say I'm sure. I think it's really curious. So the shooting thing, there's some other things he has to work on. Like, he picked up his dribble way too much. So if you're not going to shoot, you at least have to keep your dribble going so that you can remain a threat against defense. He picked up his dribble a lot. If they switch smaller guys onto you, duck down towards the rim right away. So there are a few things he can make adjustments of. I would expect him to, because he's a really smart player, really natural. He gets the game. He does want to be great. But I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see how he comes out next year.
So, Yaron, now that you spent some time with him, some one-on-one time with him with Ben Simmons, what's more rare, a Ben Simmons three-pointer or a Ben Simmons smile while talking to a media member?
No, you see, he'll smile. He'll smile because he'll laugh at, if someone asks a bad question, and he'll just respond. I don't even know what the example is. If someone says, in a scrum, how badly did you want to win? He'll say, yeah, pretty badly, and then he'll smile. So he'll bust, I guess I don't know what I can say over the air, but, he'll bust every now and then, right. Give a smile. So I will say three-pointers are more rare.
Right, the Stones. I did see him smile after one of the Boston games where somebody asked him. It was an Australian reporter, so they wanted to talk about his neckwear and the kangaroo that he wore around his neck.
Exactly.
He grinned then.
Yeah. Yaron, did you catch up with him before the season as well, or early in the season?
Yes, I did a profile on him for Bleacher report before the season.
Right, because I see that pinned at your Twitter on your Twitter page.
Very nice, thank you.
So, how much did he change from back then to the end of the season? Was he a much different guy, or was it the same Ben Simmons?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. I think that's pretty interesting. Kind of he is who he is right now. Again, I think there'll be some growth there because it's like he's 21, right? So anyone that age, they go through these experiences. We're all different at the age of 25 than we are at 21. But he came to the year thinking he was going to be great, knowing he was going to be great, I'd say. He was great and close, and he still thinks that way, And it's not in an egomaniac way or anything like that. It's just he was extremely self-confident. He didn't feel like he had to prove. When I spoke to him before the seaon, it wasn't about a typical, I want to prove to everyone this and that. It was more about the idea is I'm going to be great. I want to get on the court and show people what I am.
Now, did you get a sense that, he does this documentary, he kind of wants to be a pro, that Philadelphia was the right place for him?
Yeah, well, him and Brett Brown also know each other. Brett Brown loves him. Brett Brown coached his father in Australia. So there's a connection there. Philadelphia is great. And Brett Brown, think about it. He's a cliche. He handed him the keys to the car pretty early on, right? So you're going to be our starting point guard. And, we're running the team through you. So, yeah, I think Philadelphia is a great fit. And, he has a coach who, I know some fans are not so happy with what Brett Brown did in the playoffs, but they built a different kind of offense, not pick and roll based and different than what we see in the NBA. And a lot of that was to take advantage and also take advantage of Ben's strengths and, hide his weaknesses a little bit. So, yeah, I think it's a really good situation.
Yaron Weitzman, the Slam magazine cover is Ben Simmons. Check that out. And he appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline to share some of his conversation with Ben Simmons. We appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.